They said she was nothing without him. They said love belongs to the rich. But on a dusty African roadside, a broken girl met a boy with nothing. And that meeting changed destinies forever. The road was loud that evening, not because of cars alone, but because of life itself. Hawkers shouted over each other, selling roasted corn, groundnuts wrapped in old newspaper, cheap phone chargers, and dreams that cost more than money. The sun was going down behind the half-built buildings, painting the sky in tired orange and bruised purple, as if even the day itself was exhausted. That was where she sat. On the roadside curb, just beside a gutter that smelled of old rain and yesterday's dust, Amina cried like someone whose heart had been torn out and stepped on. Not the quiet crying people do when they're ashamed, but the kind that shakes your chest, that pulls air painfully into your lungs. Her mascara had long given up, black lines streaking down her cheeks. Her shoes, once clean and elegant, were now dusty and scuffed, one heel broken. People passed her. Some looked and turned away. Some whispered. Some laughed softly. See her? Another one. Rich man don finish am. These girls never learn. Amina heard it all, but none of it mattered. The only voice ringing in her head was his. You should understand, Amina. This is how life works. Just that. No apology. No regret. 3 years of love dismissed in one sentence spoken from the comfort of a leather seat inside a black SUV. Earlier that day, she had dressed carefully. She wore the blue dress he once said made her look like a woman meant for better things. She had believed him. She always did. She thought maybe today he would finally speak to his parents about her. Maybe today he would stop hiding her like a mistake. Instead, he ended it. Not in a quiet cafe. Not in private. But right there in the parking lot of a luxury mall, while security guards watched and drivers waited. My wife is arriving from London next week, he said calmly. My family arranged it long ago. Amina had laughed at first, thinking it was a joke that had gone too far. Then she saw his eyes. Cold. Finished. What about me? She asked, her voice shaking. He sighed, already bored. You were good for a season. Don't make this difficult. Then he handed her an envelope. Money. As if love could be folded neatly and paid off. She didn't even remember throwing the envelope back at him. She only remembered the sound it made when it hit the car door, and the way his driver looked at her with pity mixed with superiority. Now she sat on the roadside with nothing left to hold on to. Her phone was dead. Her landlord had already been calling for rent. Her village back home believed she was making it in the city. And the man she loved had erased her like chalk from a board. Her stomach growled, but hunger felt irrelevant compared to the ache inside her chest. That was when she noticed the boy. He had been standing a few meters away, pretending not to watch her too closely. A street boy, maybe 16 or 17, thin like hunger had shaped him personally. His clothes were mismatched, a faded football jersey with a missing logo, trousers too short for his legs, rubber slippers worn flat. His hair was uncombed, but his eyes were sharp and observant. Most people ignored boys like him. They blended into the city like potholes and stray dogs. But he hadn't ignored her. Slowly, cautiously, he walked closer, holding something in his hand. A paper wrap of roasted corn, half-eaten. He stopped at a respectful distance. "Madam," he said softly. Amina didn't respond. "I'm not here to trouble you," he added quickly. You've been crying long." She wiped her face angrily. "Go away." He nodded, taking a step back. "Okay." He turned to leave. Something about that, the fact that he actually listened, made her chest tighten even more. "Wait," she said quietly. He turned around, surprised. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice breaking again. He hesitated, then held out the roasted corn. "You haven't eaten." She stared at it like he had offered her gold. "This is all I have today," he added quickly, almost embarrassed. "But crying on empty stomach is worse." Amina let out a short, bitter laugh that turned into tears again. "Why are you helping me?" The boy shrugged. "Because I know that look." "What look?" "The one people wear when they think they are finished." She took the corn with trembling hands. Their fingers touched briefly. His hands were rough, calloused, but warm. "My name is Kofi," he said. "Amina." They sat in silence as traffic roared past them. The city didn't slow down for heartbreak. After a while, she spoke again, not because she planned to, but because the words were choking her. "He said I was good for a season," she whispered. Kofi frowned. "Season like mango?" She smiled despite herself. "Yes, like mango." He shook his head slowly. "Mango doesn't stop being sweet because season ends. It only means people were too lazy to preserve it." That simple sentence hit her harder than anything the rich man had said. Amina looked at him properly for the first time. This boy, who slept under shop verandas and survived on coins thrown without eye contact, spoke with more sense than the man who wore tailored suits and expensive watches. "Where is your family?" she asked. He looked away. "Village far from here. After my father died, things changed." She didn't push. In Africa, some stories are sacred and painful at the same time. The evening grew darker. Streetlights flickered on, insects dancing around them. Somewhere nearby, music played from a bar, loud and careless. "Will you be okay?" Kofi asked. Amina nodded, though she wasn't sure. "I don't even know where to go." He hesitated, then said carefully, "There's a woman who sells food near the bus park. She lets me sit there at night sometimes. It's not good, but it's safe." Tears filled her eyes again, this time different. "Why are you doing this for me?" He met her gaze directly. "Because nobody did it for me when I cried." That night, Amina didn't sleep much. Sitting on a wooden bench near the food stall, wrapped in borrowed cloth, she listened to the city breathe. She thought of her village, of her mother pounding fufu, of the promises she had made to herself. And she thought of revenge. Not loud revenge. Not violent revenge. The quiet kind. The kind where one day, the person who broke you looks at you and realizes they misjudged your worth. Beside her, Kofi slept lightly, curled like a child who learned early that comfort is temporary. As dawn approached, Amina stared at the pale sky and whispered to herself, "I will rise again." She didn't know how. But for the first time since the black SUV drove away, she believed it was possible. Morning came softly, the kind of morning that doesn't announce itself with birdsong or joy, but with tired light slipping through the cracks of unfinished buildings. The city woke up slowly, stretching like an old man whose bones complained with every movement. Amina woke to the sound of Kofi coughing lightly, trying not to disturb her. He had slept sitting up, his back against the wooden table of the food stall, his chin resting on his chest like someone used to discomfort. She sat up straight, suddenly aware of her situation. The smell of frying oil from a nearby stall mixed with dust and early morning sweat. She felt embarrassed, exposed, like the city could see straight through her broken pride. "You're awake," Kofi said, surprised. "Yes," she replied softly. "How long have you been up?" He smiled. "I never sleep deep. City doesn't allow it." She nodded, understanding more than words could explain. In her village, sleep was a promise. In the city, sleep was a risk. A woman passed by carrying a basin of oranges on her head. She looked at Amina, then at Kofi, and shook her head slowly, the way older African women do when they think they understand a story without hearing it. "City will finish you if you don't stand up," the woman muttered as she walked away. Amina felt the words sting, but she knew they weren't cruel. They were true. "I can't stay like this," Amina said after a moment. "I need work." Kofi looked at her carefully. "What kind of work?" "Any," she replied quickly. "I can clean. I can cook. I can sell. I went to school. I can learn fast." He smiled again, that quiet, hopeful smile that didn't promise miracles but believed in effort. Then today will not waste. They walked together toward the bus park as the city grew louder. Conductors shouted destinations. Engines coughed black smoke. People argued over fares like every coin was a piece of their soul. Amina watched it all with new eyes. Yesterday, she would have passed this place in a car with tinted windows. Today, she was inside the noise. Kofi introduced her to Mama Efua, the food seller who had allowed him to sleep nearby. Mama Efua was wide-hipped, loud-voiced, and sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who had survived enough disappointments to smell lies from a distance. "So this is the girl who cried all night?" Mama Efua asked, hands on her hips. Amina lowered her head. "Yes, Ma." Mama Efua studied her from head to toe. The torn dignity. The soft hands that had not worked hard in a long time. The sadness that still clung to her eyes. "You," Mama Efua said, pointing a spoon at her, "rich man trouble?" Amina swallowed. "Yes." Mama Efua laughed, not kindly, not cruelly, but knowingly. "They all think money is character." She turned back to her pot. "You can help me today. No salary yet. Food first." "We see." Amina nodded quickly. "Thank you. Thank you so much." As she worked, stirring soup, washing plates, wiping tables, something inside her shifted. Her hands moved awkwardly at first, but then with purpose. Sweat rolled down her back, but it felt honest. No pretending. No waiting for someone's approval. Kofi watched her from a distance, proud in a way that surprised even him. By afternoon, Amina's feet hurt, her arms ached, but her mind felt clearer than it had in months. That was when the black SUV passed. She froze. Same model. Same color. Same tinted windows. Her heart raced, though she knew it probably wasn't his. The city was full of rich men who looked the same from the outside. But the fear lingered, reminding her how small she had felt when he left her on that roadside. Kofi noticed her expression. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she lied. "Just memory." He nodded. Memory can be heavier than hunger. That evening, Mama Efua handed Amina a small plate of food and a few crumpled notes. "For transport," she said. "Come tomorrow if you want." Amina's eyes filled with tears again, but these ones didn't fall. "I will come." She and Kofi walked together as the sun dipped again. He showed her a small women's hostel run by a church, cheap and crowded but clean. She used almost all the transport money to pay for a bed space. Standing at the gate, she hesitated. "What about you?" He shrugged. "I'll be fine." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw how thin his slippers were, how tired his shoulders looked. "You saved me," she said. "Let me save you too. Even small." He shook his head quickly. "I didn't save you. You stood up yourself." Still, she pressed some money into his hand. "For food." He didn't refuse this time. Days turned into weeks. Amina worked every day at the food stall. Mama Efua grew less suspicious, more maternal. Customers liked Amina's gentle smile and calm voice. Tips improved. Slowly, Amina began to breathe again. At night, she and Kofi talked. About his village near the river. About her childhood dreams of becoming a fashion designer. About how the city chewed people and sometimes spat them out. One evening, Amina asked, "Do you ever get angry?" Kofi thought for a long time. Anger costs energy. Hunger already takes too much. She nodded, but inside her, anger was growing, not wild, but focused. She began saving small amounts. She began sketching again, using charcoal and scrap paper. Dresses. Styles inspired by village cloth and modern cuts. Mama Efua noticed. "You have eye," she said one night. "Not everybody sees cloth before it's sewn." Amina smiled faintly. "I used to dream big." "Dream again," Mama Efua replied. "Dreams don't expire." One afternoon, a woman stopped at the stall and stared at Amina's sketches. "Did you draw this?" she asked. "Yes," Amina replied cautiously. The woman nodded slowly. "I work with a small tailoring shop. Come tomorrow." That night, Amina couldn't sleep. Hope is dangerous when you've been broken before. But she went. The tailoring shop was small, hot, and noisy with sewing machines, but it smelled like possibility. The woman, whose name was Selina, watched Amina work, listened to her ideas, and asked questions that mattered. "You don't think like someone desperate," Selina said finally. "You think like someone ready." Amina got the job. When she told Kofi, he laughed loudly, drawing looks from passers-by. "You see," he said, "roadside crying is not the end." She laughed too, freely this time. Months passed. Amina's posture changed. Her voice grew stronger. She bought second-hand clothes and made them beautiful with her hands. Customers began to ask for her by name. One evening, as she walked past a glass building downtown, she caught her reflection. She didn't recognize the woman at first. Then she smiled. Revenge no longer looked like bitterness. It looked like becoming undeniable. And somewhere in the city, a rich man prepared for his wedding, unaware that the woman he had called a season was becoming a storm. The city had a way of changing people quietly, without asking permission. It didn't announce growth with ceremonies or drums. It simply demanded endurance, and those who survived long enough discovered they were no longer the same. Amina noticed the change first in her hands. They were no longer soft like they had been when she depended on borrowed comfort. They carried small cuts from scissors, needle marks from rushed stitching, and strength from hours of work. These hands now created value. These hands now fed her. Every morning, she woke before sunrise at the women's hostel, washed her face with cold water, tied her hair neatly, and stepped into the noise of the city with purpose. She walked differently now. Not hurried. Not afraid. She had learned the rhythm of survival. At the tailoring shop, Selina trusted her more each week. Customers pointed at designs on the wall and asked, "Who made that one?" When Selina answered Amina's name, something warm settled inside her chest every time. But not everything grew easy. There were nights Amina returned to her narrow bed exhausted, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache. Some evenings, loneliness crept in quietly. She would lie staring at the ceiling, listening to other women whisper prayers, cry softly, or laugh over small jokes, and she would feel that old wound pulse again. On those nights, she thought of him. The rich man who once held her hand in expensive restaurants and told her she was special. She remembered his promises, how convincing they sounded when spoken over candlelight and wine. She remembered how small she felt when he discarded her. And then she remembered the roadside. She remembered Kofi. One evening, after a long day, she found him waiting near the shop, sitting on an overturned crate, watching people pass. "You're late today," he said, standing up. She smiled tiredly. "Work is growing." "That's good," he replied. "Growth is better than comfort." They walked together, as they often did. Over time, their silence had become comfortable. They didn't need to fill every moment with words. Sometimes, just walking side by side through the chaos felt like peace. "You've changed," Kofi said suddenly. She glanced at him. "In a good way or bad way?" "In a strong way," he answered. "Your eyes don't beg anymore." She swallowed. "They begged too much before." He nodded. City teaches people lessons without mercy. They reached a small junction where streetlights flickered like tired stars. Amina hesitated. "Kofi," she said quietly, "what do you want to do with your life?" He stopped walking. People rarely asked him that. Most assumed survival was his only ambition. "I want to learn," he said after a moment. "Not just street learning. Real learning." She smiled gently. "You already understand people better than most educated men." He laughed softly. "Understanding doesn't buy food." "No," she agreed. "But it builds direction." She had been thinking for weeks. Saving carefully. measuring risk. "I can help you enroll in night school," she said. "Not everything at once. Small steps." Kofi stared at her, stunned. "Why?" "Because someone helped me stand up," she replied. "And I refuse to forget that." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his voice cracked slightly. "Thank you." That night, something shifted between them. Not romance yet. Something deeper. Respect. Trust. A shared understanding that neither of them wanted to survive alone anymore. Meanwhile, across the city, preparations for a wedding moved forward with noise and pride. The rich man's name was Daniel Okoye. His face appeared on billboards promoting his family's construction company. His engagement photos circulated on social media. Amina saw them accidentally one afternoon when a customer showed Selina her phone. "Such a lucky woman," the customer said. "London education. Good family." Amina felt the air leave her lungs. She excused herself and went outside, standing alone behind the shop. Her hands shook, but she didn't cry. Not this time. He looked happy. Or at least successful. The old pain tried to rise again, but something stopped it. A quiet voice inside her whispered, "You are not broken anymore." That evening, she made a decision. She would not hide from the past. She would face it, on her own terms. Weeks later, Selina brought news that made Amina's heart race. "There's a fashion showcase coming," Selina said. "Small, but influential. Designers, investors, society people." Amina's fingers tightened around her needle. And I want you to present," Selina continued, "your designs." Fear and excitement collided inside her chest. "Me?" "Yes, you." That night, Amina barely slept. The showcase was held in a hotel ballroom downtown. White lights, clean floors, people dressed in confidence. As Amina stepped inside, memories rushed at her. This was the kind of place Daniel used to take her, back when she believed she belonged because of him. Now she belonged because of herself. Her designs walked the small runway wrapped around models with pride. Fabrics inspired by village patterns, cut with modern elegance. The audience leaned forward. Phones came out. Murmurs spread. Afterward, people approached her. "Who trained you? Where have you been hiding? We need to talk." Amina answered calmly, humbly, but inside she burned with something bright and dangerous. And then she saw him. Daniel stood near the bar, laughing with a group of men. Older now, polished, confident. His eyes met hers. Recognition hit him like a slap. For a moment, his smile froze. Amina didn't look away. She didn't rush over. She didn't tremble. She didn't shrink. She simply held his gaze, nodded politely, and turned back to speak with an investor. Daniel felt something unfamiliar twist inside his chest. Confusion. Regret. Unease. Later that night, he approached her. "Amina?" he asked, as if unsure. "Yes," she replied, calm. "Daniel. I didn't know you were." He gestured vaguely. "Here." She smiled lightly. "Neither did I once." He laughed awkwardly. "You look, well." "So do you," she said neutrally. Silence stretched. "I heard about your wedding," she added softly. His shoulders stiffened. "Yes." "I hope she treats you better than you treat people," Amina said, not cruelly, not kindly, just truthfully. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, he saw clearly what he had lost. Not a season, but a woman who had outgrown him. That night, Amina walked home under the city lights, her heart racing, not with pain, but with release. Kofi waited for her near the hostel. "You look different," he said. She smiled, eyes shining. "I faced a ghost." "And?" he asked. "And it had no power over me." They stood there, city noise humming around them, two people who had once been invisible, now standing firmly in their own light. The story wasn't over. But the balance had shifted. The city did not clap for Amina's transformation. It never did. It simply made room for her, the way it always does for people who refuse to disappear. After the fashion showcase, life didn't suddenly turn into a movie. There were no overnight miracles, no dramatic headlines calling her a star. Instead, there were meetings, follow-up calls, long conversations, and decisions that required patience. That was how real progress worked. Amina returned to the tailoring shop the next day with sore feet and a calm heart. Selina looked at her and smiled knowingly. "You handled yourself well," Selina said. "Success is loud only for those who don't understand it." Amina nodded. "I'm still learning." Opportunities came slowly but steadily. Small orders first. Then collaborations. Then a boutique owner requested a full collection inspired by African heritage for an upcoming cultural exhibition. Money improved. Not luxury. Stability. Amina moved out of the women's hostel into a modest shared apartment. She bought herself a second-hand sewing machine and set it by the window where sunlight spilled in every morning. Each stitch felt like proof that she had survived something meant to crush her. And through all of it, Kofi remained. He attended night classes 3 times a week, sometimes exhausted, sometimes discouraged, but never quitting. Amina helped where she could, books, transport, encouragement, but never made him feel like a charity case. He earned his progress with effort, and that mattered to him. Some evenings, they cooked together. Simple meals. Rice, stew, laughter that came easily now. Other nights, they sat quietly, listening to the city settle. One night, while rain tapped gently against the window, Kofi spoke. "You know," he said, "people used to call me invisible." Amina looked at him. "They still try." He smiled. "But now it doesn't enter my bones." She reached for his hand without thinking. Their fingers intertwined naturally, like they had been waiting for the right time. Neither of them pulled away. Across the city, Daniel's world was cracking quietly. His wedding preparations were moving forward, but joy was absent. His fiancée noticed his distance. His family noticed his distraction. He had begun to question things he never questioned before. His choices, his habits, his casual cruelty disguised as practicality. He searched Amina's name online. He found articles mentioning a rising designer. He saw photos of her work. Her confidence. Her presence. The woman he had discarded no longer fit into the story he told himself about power. One afternoon, he visited the tailoring shop under the excuse of business. Selina recognized him immediately. "You're late," she said coolly. "The world has moved." Daniel asked to see Amina. When she arrived and saw him standing there, her heart remained steady. No shaking. No anger. "You shouldn't be here," she said politely. "I needed to talk," he replied. She crossed her arms calmly. "Then speak." "I was wrong," he said, words tasting unfamiliar. "I treated you like an option." "Yes," she agreed simply. "I thought money made decisions clean," he continued. "I see now it just hides consequences." She studied him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't forget you," he admitted. Amina exhaled slowly. "That is your problem, not my responsibility." Silence fell. "I didn't come for apology," she added. "I came for closure long ago. You denied me that. I found it myself." Daniel looked smaller than she remembered. "I wish you well," she said finally. "But not back in my life." That was the revenge. Not shouting. Not humiliation. But refusal. Daniel left carrying something heavier than regret, irrelevance. Life continued. Kofi completed his first year of studies with strong results. His confidence grew. People listened when he spoke now. He started helping younger boys from the street find shelter and schooling, not as a savior, but as someone who understood. One evening, after a long walk through a market alive with music and bargaining voices, Kofi stopped. "Amina," he said, serious now, "I don't want to be a chapter in your survival story." She turned to him, heart racing. "You're not. I want to build with you," he continued. Slowly. Honestly. "No promises I can't keep." She smiled, eyes wet. "That's all I ever wanted." They didn't rush love. They allowed it to breathe. Their relationship grew from shared pain into shared strength. They argued sometimes. They learned each other's fears. They respected each other's scars. Amina visited her village months later. She returned not in shame, not in secrecy, but with quiet dignity. Her mother cried when she saw her. Neighbors whispered, then watched with curiosity. Amina brought fabric for the women, school supplies for children, and stories that didn't exaggerate but inspired. "She has changed," someone said. "Yes," her mother replied proudly. "She has." Kofi visited too, standing respectfully, greeting elders properly. The village approved of him, not for what he had, but for how he stood. Years passed. Amina opened a small fashion house bearing her name. Not extravagant. Authentic. Young designers apprenticed under her. Women found employment. Culture was honored, not exploited. Kofi graduated. The city that once tried to swallow them now spoke their names with respect. On an ordinary evening, sitting together outside their shop as the sun dipped low, Amina reflected. "I cried on that roadside thinking my life had ended," she said softly. Kofi smiled. "Turns out it was the beginning." She leaned her head on his shoulder. Love had found her not in luxury, but in truth. Betrayal had broken her, but growth rebuilt her. And the boy with nothing had become the man who walked beside her, not as a hero above her, but as a partner equal to her. The city continued to roar. But inside, Amina was finally at peace.